In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod.
In partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McKeown.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 77 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at Kiln Portland in Oregon talking with Joe Masilotti. Joe is self-employed as a Turbo native consultant, and in this one-person shop, he helps Ruby on Rails developers build mobile apps with blog posts, videos, and workshops. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoy. All right. Thank you for joining us on the Swell Pod, part of the Kiln Road Trip, where we're on a journey to interview 100 people over the course of about 8 days, and you are one of the 100. Would it be okay if you just, for our audience, can you introduce yourself, your full name, as well as what you do and what you're passionate about?
Sure. So my name is Joe Masilotti. I help developers bring their websites from web, like mobile web, to native iPhone and Android apps. And I've been independent doing that for, I think, like 3 years now. But I'm doing that almost my whole career. So it's been fun to kind of transition out of like full-time job to working on my own for the past while.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And before the podcast, sorry, did you say your wife was also doing this with you as well, or did I make that mistake?
No. So my wife is also independent up until about 3 months ago. She does her own thing though. She's was a marketing consultant, branding, that kind of stuff. Now she works full time as the head of marketing somewhere.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Very cool.
But she's still, we're still remote, right? So we're living up the road, and we come to Kiln every couple of days. Yeah.
Very interesting. So you made the transition from, working for someone to doing it now out on your own.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that moment that you decided to do that?
I decided because I got let go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
I was consulting for like 3 or 4 years, like part-time, like 10 hours a week up until that, and doing the same stuff, like helping other folks bring their websites to mobile. And the company went from 6 people to 4 people, or no, 8 people to 4 people. So like half the company got let go, even though we were super tiny. I was the only developer, and they just like couldn't make ends meet. And they let pretty much everyone go besides the co-founder and like the marketing or the support team. And I got a little bit of severance, and it just gave me an opportunity to really explore it on my own. I was in Mexico City. We were like nomading at the time, so really unsure of like what was next, but was given this opportunity to see if I could like stake it out on my own. And it was like one of the best decisions that I didn't have to make for myself. I don't know if I ever would have decided to go independent on my own, like had the guts to do that. So very grateful for getting fired.
Yeah. What was that like? So, and that decision to be like, I'm gonna do this on my own.
At the time, it was pretty scary, like to be let go. We didn't have any kids yet at the time, so my wife and I had fewer responsibilities, but it's still scary to all of a sudden be on a meeting with your boss, like the CEO, and them say, at the end of this call, you don't have a job anymore. And we were so close. We were together. I worked there for 5 years. I knew him before that. Like we got beers on the weekends. It was emotional for sure. Like he was letting go his second most tenured employee at that time. Only one second to the co-founder. So that was really scary and really emotional. Took some time to myself, kind of like figured out what I really wanted to do, and had a lot of support from my wife, who was able to like figure out how we can make ends meet for a while, even if I lost my severance and everything. But yeah, it was still scary. It was still challenging. And like I said, I don't think I would have made the decision on my own if I had to.
It's very interesting. And
how long was that period then from when you said the words, it took some time to figure it out? Is that a day? Is that 3 months?
On paper, it was like 3 months, probably 2.5, 3 months. in my head though, it was about 3 hours.
Right.
I knew without knowing that I was going to go independent. I just had to make sure it made sense on paper. Like I really wanted to try it, but I didn't know that like that's what I could do. Like I didn't know that I would be able to, or have the bandwidth, or be able to bring in the clients and stuff like that. And it took me a long time to realize that I could try it, and now's a really good time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as like making that commitment and then ultimately getting what was your first client.
Yeah.
What was that like? And when you got that client, help me understand that moment.
So I was really lucky that I had that existing client before I got let go. So like worst case, I had, bare minimum of income coming in indefinitely every month as I helped them build and maintain their iOS and Android apps. That second client though was the first time where I was like, okay, this is possible. Like it was an inbound lead. Like someone had messaged me on Twitter from like talking about the technology that I use, and was like, hey, we want to try this. Do you have availability? And it's like, yeah, like let's do this. Had to scramble for a contract, had to scramble for like, I think I was using FreshBooks at the time, just like setting all those little things up. I didn't have an LLC yet. Yeah. And all those things were like, I'm not going to worry about those until I actually am doing it. And it took me like 6 months to actually, find an accountant, and I did an LLC for like 2 years later, like all these silly things that I just like made sure I got the clients and got the work done first. Yeah. But yeah, that second client, the first client, whatever you want to call it, was the first time I was like, okay, I think I can do this.
Yeah, just need another one, second one.
Yeah.
Get another one.
Exactly. Yeah. Then I start to have testimonials. I start to have like, okay, this is my actual offering. I can actually tell people this is what I do, and not just say something generic like I help with websites or apps or whatever.
So it wasn't always I help go from web to mobile on iOS and Android.
Yeah, I started off a little more generic as just a web developer consultant. Like I work in a technology called Ruby on Rails almost exclusively. So I was like a Rails consultant, and it just was so broad that I wasn't able to specialize or find the right folks to work with. And now I've narrowed that down into this niche of Ruby on Rails called Turbo Native, which is this very specific technology that takes websites and brings them to mobile apps. And now I've become one of like the biggest names in that space, and consulting for that and helping people. This morning I got official word that a book deal, which is super exciting. Like this morning I got the email, so I'm going to be writing a book on Turbo Native. So just like really, really exciting stuff that never would have happened if I hadn't gone all in on it 3 years ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's super exciting.
Very excited. Yeah,
nice,
very excited.
Live announcements.
Yeah, right.
What?
Somebody celebrating something.
That's
Think
true.
about that. Think about that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll come back to that at the end.
Okay. All right.
We're speaking in riddles right now.
Yeah.
Just a couple of ideas with what we're doing, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that's amazing though. Yeah. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Really, really cool.
Yeah.
I guess help me understand that wave then from going to, getting your second client to, so you mentioned getting testimonials and becoming one of the bigger names in the space.
Yeah.
It's interesting because there's so many really incredible small businesses around here. From what we've heard today, we're not from here, we don't know, but we've spoken to a lot of really cool people who, we can go to their bar, later this afternoon if we wanted to, or we can go visit their shop, so help me understand what that's looked like for you, that build up.
Yeah. It's also interesting, like being in development and tech, whatever, like I work with clients across the US and across the world, even like I just finished up some work with someone that was in like Sweden, and like all this stuff that like location doesn't matter at all.
That's cool. Okay.
Which is really cool. But to be local to Portland is just so amazing. I mean, I was saying before we started, I live a block up the street practically. Yeah. I walk to Kiln every day that I work here. It's really great. But to answer your question directly, like that build up from client number 1, client number 2 to actually being able to deliver and be that name in this space, it took a lot of luck and it took a lot of riding on other folks' kind of coattails. And it took a little bit of very explicit, like, okay, I'm going to try this thing. So the luck came from being the only person that was talking about this online. Like it was a technology that folks had thought about in the past, but no one was really going all in on it. And I was the first person to really do that. So the blog helped there, like a newsletter helped there, like doing all those little things to solidify myself as the name in the space. But I kind of got taken under the wing of someone who was much bigger, in the space, like had a much bigger name and ran a community about it. And they kind of carried me along for a year or so. I'm very grateful to that person because they were able to get my name in front of an audience 10 times the size, 100 times the size of mine.
Yeah.
And then from there, I was able to actually start. If I talk about something on Twitter, I can get 15 people to respond to me and say that they'd like to help or they're interested. And I don't think that like kind of kickstart would have happened without this person.
Was it natural for you to go from, so you have your specialty, but now you also have to talk about that specialty to other people.
Yeah.
So it's not just doing the work, but then, advocating and discussing it and help me understand that from your perspective.
I am one of those people that if I'm working on something, I like to tell everyone about it.
Okay.
And Twitter's a great spot to do that because you can just write whatever you want and, people can listen or they can not listen, but it's kind of like my public journal. In that if I'm working on something and I get stuck, I'll post it on Twitter. If I'm working on something and I'm excited about it, I'll post a screenshot. And just doing that consistently, every day for 10 years has built up an audience of folks that are interested in following my journey and interested in seeing like what's coming next. Knowing like, 2 days ago, I posted that I had applied to 4 different publishers for the book. Like got a ton of support immediately with like, oh, you should try this or you should try this publisher or good luck. Right. And I hope you get the best deal. And like, that doesn't happen if you're just kind of staying close to yourself and not sharing. Yeah. So my mentality with all of it is just share as much as possible and be as open as possible. And good things will eventually come around to you.
Yeah. Being vulnerable. I love that. We were discussing what does it take to do these things. And really it's like 10 years. It might be shorter potentially, but 10 years of just writing it as if it was your journal. That's really good advice, isn't it?
And I'm sure those people who follow you, who read your stuff all the time, they feel a part of your journey. Yeah. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah. When they buy a product that I sell or a service that I offer, it's less now even about what I'm offering them. And it's more about working with me. Yeah. Like I am the brand of my own personal business. I don't have any VAs, I don't have any subcontractors, I don't have anyone that really helps me with it. And I think that helps a lot because you're working with me the whole time. You're going to be talking to me the whole time. And you probably know who I am if you're working with me. Like I very rarely, if ever, will do outbound leads to find clients. It's always inbound or always inbound emails or someone responding to a newsletter article. It's like, hey, this looks really great. Can you help us with it? And that's like the type of audience and type of business that I want to run where folks know who I am and want to work with me. Makes the sell a little bit easier too. Yeah. But it's just like, I know that if they're reaching out to me, they're going to be a good fit. Yeah. Versus the other way around.
Do you see yourself transitioning? So book deal, right? A lot of people following your journey. Do you see yourself transitioning out of the doing and more of the advocating or the storytelling and kind of, and maybe even building what you're doing up to more people than you, Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that I'm still definitely in the phase where I enjoy doing the building and I enjoy getting, nitty gritty into the code and trying to figure things out. I'm sure that in the future, there'll be a time where I need help or I'm running more of an agency or maybe not for sure, but I don't see that happening anytime in the near future. I still see myself as like the person doing the stuff. And I do recognize that does mean that there's like a cap to how much I can make. But I think that for right now, like I'm okay with that because I still am so passionate about what I'm doing with it. And I'm hoping that the book is able to give me a little bit of a boost in not only getting my name out there, but making me find better or more lucrative or just more clients to work with. Yeah. And like, I'm not going to make money from the book itself. Like that's not how nonfiction books usually work, but it will help me reach more people. Yeah. Which is really important.
Absolutely. And then, so you found Kiln, you said you mentioned before this, 2 months ago. Yeah. Right. Around that time and kind of when it was opening, and help me understand. So from your perspective, what does Kiln mean for you in the work that you're doing?
Yeah. Kiln to me is a respite from my office at home. At the simplest level, it's a place that I can come to every single day whenever I want. It's open on the weekends to me. It's open at night for me. I can come after the little one goes to sleep if I want to. But what it really offers is a place that I can come and focus entirely on my work and not have to worry about the laundry going off or the bread, coming out of the oven at the right time and getting distracted at all the stuff I have to do at home. it really gives me this just kind of sanctuary to work on work. And when I'm here, I'm working on work. And when I'm home, I'm not. And working remotely for the last almost 11 years, like I need that place in my life right now. So it offers me that. And I still haven't tapped into a lot of the community or like a lot of the events going on yet, because right now I'm just so focused on my work. But I've started to see the the tendrils of friendships build and like people hanging out by the coffee. And it's fun to know that I have that available to me when I'm ready to really dive into that.
Yeah, that's great.
I think Kiln is trying to, I'm sure, trying to connect people even from other kilns. So imagine being invited to, I don't know, you're doing speaker circuits yet. I don't know if that comes afterwards, or do you speak at events?
What's today, the middle of November? A month ago, I did my first speaking engagement.
There we go.
Yeah, on the topic, was asked to speak there in Amsterdam. So it was like super exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's starting.
but Kiln, for example, as you start to understand the great skills across communities and sub-communities, being invited maybe to do a Zoom session to join in with some similar experts in Salt Lake, and I'm sure I'm not asking you to do it because I don't work for Kiln, but imagine that could be really, you've just scratched the surface of what Kiln really actually does. They do a really great job of community. Can you just remind me like what I know time's flying by and we need to wrap up even so quickly, just remind me what makes this your expertise, what is it and how is it different, and why are you an expert and there's not that many experts out there?
Yeah. So the space that I work in is really helping web developers write native apps that go in the App Store or Google Play that you download and install on your phone. And even though that sounds kind of simple on paper, it actually means that you need to know 3 full technology stacks: the web, your iPhone, and your Android stuff. And I got my start doing the native stuff, the iPhone, the Android stuff, and then kind of transitioned into web. So I'm in this unique position where I have all of that background experience to do the native stuff and can help the web developers make their own transition to do everything. So I'm in this unique spot where like I kind of know, that Venn diagram, like I'm kind of in the middle of all 3. I'm able to help folks from all little areas bring their websites to mobile apps, because I've kind of done it all in the past. And I think now I've worked with probably like 24 clients, like helping them bring their websites to the App Store, to Google Play. So I also now know all of like the little gotchas, like not only the coding gotchas, but like how to deal with App Store review when they're like, hey, your app's not accepted. How do we work around that? How do we work with Apple to make sure that we do get accepted? Those type of things that you can't really get from just doing 1 or 2 apps. You really need to build 10 or 20 of these things to know all the insides and outs of them.
Interesting. Have you ever heard of Pluralsight?
What is it?
Pluralsight?
Yeah.
You ever authored in there?
No, I haven't. No.
What is your plan in the future to scale? I know you mentioned already where you're just happy to do what you're doing now, but scaling, writing courses. I mean, you're already writing a book. I guess it's very similar.
Yeah, it's a good question. I've thought about this a lot, and my goal for this year, as an independent consultant, like in this space, like a solopreneur, I always have to make sure I have kind of one North Star to follow, right? And this year was to figure out my info product. And I went back and forth between doing a video course or an interactive course or workshops, and the kind of landed on the book as what would help my career the most. But in the future, I think the book opens up a ton of opportunities for more speaking engagements, live courses, recorded video courses. Like there's so much more that opens up in the future, I think, from this. And right now, I'm sure for the next 18 months, I'm going to be heads down writing this book. But
monk mode.
Yeah, right. Just like lock myself in a room and, grab a keyboard. But there's so many new things that I think that it unlocks as being the authority in this space that I'm really excited to start diving into.
That's good. I only mentioned Pluralsight. It is one of our first guests, one of our good friends, Nate Walkinshaw, was head of experience at Pluralsight.
Okay.
But now is also founder of another company that's sponsoring one of our sponsors, actually. So thank you, Nate. But really, you ever want to talk about education, they are real experts in the space of tech education, and royalties for people like you. I can imagine people not just want your expertise, but actually your engaging communication about how you feel about it. I mean, I think that's what people are drawn to, probably.
Yeah.
Well, you're right.
I'm okay. The phone's not.
So yeah, the last question that we like to ask everybody that comes on our podcast is, what does it take to create something that's never existed before? A lot of different ways that you can think about that, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Before we get into the rest of the episode, we want to thank the partners and sponsors who made the Kiln Road Trip possible. The Kiln Road Trip is brought to you by Kiln. Kiln is a boutique co-working and flex office community with 13 locations in 6 states across the West, dedicated to providing innovative workspaces that empower your team to thrive. Whether you're a solo visionary or an enterprise-level team of up to 100, Kiln transcends being merely a place to work. It's a hub for learning and connecting with like-minded professionals that will make you and your team love where you work.
And if you haven't stepped foot inside a kiln yet, you really need to. On this road trip, we visited every single location, and trust us when we say once you see these beautifully designed spaces, meet the talented team, and connect with fellow members, you won't want to work anywhere else.
Locations include Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, California, and Arizona. And they're growing too, with multiple locations set to open in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the kiln locations nearest you by booking a tour at kiln.com and answer SWELL in the question, how did you hear about us? Once you complete the tour, you'll be entered into a competition where you could win a 1-year membership, their club membership at Kiln.
Yep, you heard that. That's kiln.com, book a tour, and be sure to mention SWELL in the question, how did you hear about us?
The Kiln Road Trip is also brought to you by Moterra Campervans, a luxury campervan rental company for iconic road trips. Their top-of-the-line vans are available at 7 locations located near America's best outdoor adventure destinations. They have consistently earned the highest customer ratings in the industry, making Moterra Campervans your gateway to adventure without sacrificing on comfort or service.
That's true, and initially we wanted to take this journey in a 1960s VW bus, but thankfully we found Moterra instead. With 3 van options, we took the Pop Top Classic, which sleeps 4 and is best for those who want to maximize floor space and storage. This was critical for us because it needed to sleep the entire crew, we needed space to edit, and we were traveling with large amounts of equipment, luggage, and other goodies that we picked up along the way.
And this van took us through all 3,580 miles of the trip. Super comfortable and sweet to drive.
And actually, Moterra offers fully planned itineraries if you'd rather leave the planning to someone else.
Visit gomoterra.com/swell. That's gomoterra.com/swell.
This episode is also brought to you by Taurus. Taurus is leading the charge in home energy storage. Taurus makes it easy to achieve energy independence and a greener tomorrow. The Taurus station provides everything you need to generate clean power, efficiently store electricity, and easily manage your energy use.
And installing a Taurus station offers plenty of benefits, including save money on your electricity bill,
also ensure energy security with backup power during outages,
reduce carbon emissions with renewables.
You can also automate EV charging and HVAC systems with 100% renewables,
and enjoy unrivaled system monitoring and support.
If you like the sound of those benefits, get a quote to build your Taurus station in less than 30 seconds. Super easy at taurus.co. That's TORUS.co. Now, let's get back to the episode.
I think that to create something that's never existed before, you have to realize that most everything's already been done. And the way that I like to look at new products or new ideas or new ventures is that what can I model this after that's different enough that it works for me and the people that I'm trying to serve? A video course has been done how many hundreds or millions of times? A book has been written how many literally millions of times? I'm not writing a brand new book or something that's equivalent to a book. I'm writing a book on a topic. Mm-hmm. I'm doing a video course on a topic. I'm consulting for this, technology. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you're trying to do something that is totally novel and totally brand new, you're going to fail because it's not possible anymore. And you have to find something that you can base it off of, but tweak to be what it means to you and to what people you're trying to serve. And that's how I look at almost all of my new products or my new ventures or side businesses and what have you. It's always, what can I model this after?
Yeah.
But then change just enough to make it unique for me.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in 2 ways. 1, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, at the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.